This is Colombian colored lab created emerald, which I imported from a lab in Russia a while back. Well, they do say that the third time's a charm, so here I go again. Not long ago, I test cut a pear-shaped gem faceting diagram called Allen's Challenge using lab created emerald. I then used that design to cut another piece of emerald to fit into a mounting which could not be altered due to the accent diamonds already set into the mounting. So the emerald center stone had to fit perfectly. Luckily, I hit the mark and was glad to label that project as mission accomplished. But then my wife, BOPIE'S, and the client decided to take things up to the next level and to recast the mounting, changing it slightly using 18 karat gold, again with accent diamonds around the center stone. And so I needed to do it again and cut another emerald for the center stone. The length and width of the new mounting are very close to the old mounting, but slightly different. So I had to go to GCS, and using the GCS or Gem Cut Studio software, I tweaked the length and width of Arya Akvan's design to make minor adjustments to the cutting angle so that I would perfectly cut this gemstone to the correct length and width so that the gemstone fits perfectly into this ring. Here are the tweaked cutting instructions which I used to cut this gemstone. Alright, I've put our emerald onto the dop stick and I've moved it way back because of the, that's where the center of our pear is. Also there's a lot of, there's a fracture line on our lab created emerald right along here, so I put that on the bottom part of the pavilion, so I'll cut through that as I cut the pavilion. Now for this design we want the index, the 96 tooth, and we want to set our stone this way in our 96 index. So we'll set it in and lock down our set screw and we'll be ready to start cutting our lab created emerald. Okay, I finished preforming our emerald. I used topper laps, 100 grit and then a 210 and a 320 grit. So I've got the girdle pretty much where I need it. Now I'll use the 600 grit and my 12M and get the girdle exactly the length and the width that I need. I've only gone over the facets on the pavilion, the first row of facets, because I really want to get the girdle set, get my length to width set, and then I'll work on the other facets. Okay, I've cut the second and third rows. I used my 3K diamond on a bat lap to go over the second row, which is half of this, and the third row, third tier, which was half of this. This top tier was my 12M lap, and no need to go over it with the 3000 grit diamond on a bat lap. Those facets are small enough that I'll go straight to polish, and they'll polish right up. So I'm ready to polish the pavilion of our stone. So you can see right there the line between the tiers. Okay, I finished polishing the bottom half of the pavilion of our emerald. So now I'll transfer the stone in my transfer jig and cut the upper half of the stone. I'm ready to polish the upper half, the crown of our emerald, and there is a inclusion, let me zoom in on it, on this stone that does go to the surface, break the surface, right here on the bottom part of our pear shape, right here. Kind of, if I move it around you can see it right there. So because that breaks the surface of the stone, if I were to use any of the oxide spray, oxide powders on a lap to polish this, it would create a kind of a slurry and get sucked into that crack. Same thing if I used any of the bat laps with diamond grit, or any lap with diamond grit or diamond powder. So I'm going to use my Spectrum Ultra Laps, which are a thin mylar kind of disposable laps, and these go over a master lap, and I use my ceramic lap as my master. So we'll use those ultra laps because they don't create any slurry. There's cerium oxide embedded into the mylar, and so that's what does the polishing. I understand they're not always blue now. So before, the blue ones generally meant the more premium grade of the cerium oxide, except with some rough dealers, Rock Peddler for one, the white Spectra Ultra Laps were the higher quality, and the blue were the not lower quality, larger microns, so it didn't cut as fine a polish as the finer one. So generally the blue ones were the finer and the white ones were not, except with some rough dealers had it the other way. The white ones were the finer and the blue were not. And now I understand they're phasing out the blue ones, and now I guess the finer ones are white. So you just got to look for the finer micron size. So we'll polish it up with the Spectrum Ultra Laps, and then we'll be ready to cut the table. All right, I finished polishing the upper half, or the crown, of our lab created emerald. I used the Spectrum Ultra Lap, kind of disposable mylar lap with cerium oxide embedded in it. So now I'll set this stone up to cut the table, and then we'll be done. Okay, I finished cutting and polishing the table to our lab created emerald. I used the Spectra Ultra Lap to polish the table up. So now I will soak it in acetone and weigh it and measure it and send it off to BOPIE. Okay, the third time is a charm. Although I enjoyed cutting this design by Arya, I really want to move on and cut some other designs. So I hope BOPIE doesn't ask me to cut this design again, at least not for a little while. Adjusting a gem fastening diagram to a different length and width would be very difficult without the aid of a computer CAD design. Gem Cut Studio really saved me in this case, as I needed to cut the gemstone to an exact length and width to fit into the 14 karat ring, which cannot be altered or adjusted because there are diamond accent stones already mounted into the ring, which will surround this emerald gemstone center stone. Note that GCS has an option when you change the length to width to use whole numbers on the index gear or index teeth, or to use not use whole number. Naturally, for me, I selected to use whole number, which meant that because you're using whole numbers, the couple of facets don't meet exactly, and you have to be set the facet by eye. But adjusting by eye is much easier to me than trying to adjust an index gear or tooth to a fraction of a number, like the 96 index being adjusted to 96.3. Very difficult for me to do. So I take that option in GCS and keep the index teeth at whole numbers if I'm ever going to adjust the length to width again with GCS. Overall, the resulting gemstone was just what BOPIE wanted. It seems to me that the more you cut a design, the easier it becomes to cut and polish, and this proved the case here. I didn't have any problems cutting this gemstone for the third time. Please let us know in the comments what you think of this emerald, and as always, happy fastening, everyone.